Hello and welcome to the Thanksgiving Black Friday edition of the Monster Pod here, presented by TheLines.com. Matt Brown, Mo Noir, and this is absolutely free like it is each and every week. So go ahead, hit that subscribe button. Do appreciate it. And give us a thumbs up and let us know in the comment section everything you disagree with, because that's what the comment section is for, right? Just to tell us how stupid we are and how terrible the picks are. So you go ahead and utilize that and let us know. We'll read it and probably won't respond. This is just do these 3 Thanksgiving games, guys, and then the Black Friday game will come back on Friday, and then we will post for the rest of the weekend as well. So just know we will get to every game this week, but we did want to get these out while this was nice and timely, and certainly one of the biggest betting days of the year, Mo. I get the handle reports for a lot of this, and Thanksgiving Day, outside of Super Bowl day itself, is like one of the highest, if not the highest, handle days for the NFL in general. 3 island games, everyone's at home. You start getting a little cocktail in you, and all that stuff. So, like, these games get a ton of action.
Yeah, this year might be testing it with this Cowboys-Giants game.
It is. I mean, it's not like we have great games, but yeah, I mean, somebody will fire on these things. All right, let's go ahead and just kick things off with one that, again, it just depends on how much you believe in what we've seen so far and how much you believe in the potential, which is the Bears on the road at the Lions. This is anywhere from, you can find 9.5 now in the market. You can also find 10.5 out there in the market. 48.5 is our total here in this one. Elijah Hicks, 2 straight DNPs for the Bears. We don't have the official injury reports yet, guys, as of the time of this recording this. So just kind of give you what the practice report looks like. You'll have to check it out for yourself by the time you watch this. So Elijah Hicks, 2 straight DNPs for the Bears. Also, Ryan Bates might make it back from concussion, so something to keep an eye on there. On the Lions side of things, they're kind of beat up, actually. Carlton Davis, Taylor Decker, Khalif Raymond just got put on IR. David Montgomery. All these guys are people to take a look at as we kind of close in on this game. Terrion Arnold did miss this past Sunday, but has gotten in 2 full practices this week, so it looks like he might make it back for the Lions. Mo, again, we can get under 10 right now at DraftKings in the market on the Lions if you want to go under double digits and back the Lions, or you can get all the way to 10.5 over at FanDuel if you want to come in on the Bears.
Yeah, I'm tempted to bet the Bears north of 10. They've been feisty since they got rid of their offensive coordinator. At the same time, I'm sick of losing money fading the Lions. I was like all over the Lions early in the season, but I thought, okay, maybe the market's gone too far on the Lions, and now they just keep winning by double digits. They're a tough fade for sure. I don't know. This game, I am tempted by another prop. Last week we talked about Caleb Williams rushing over. Mm-hmm. Came home pretty easy. Yeah. This week I'm thinking about 219 over on the passing number. It's pretty low. You've got a Bears team that's expected to be playing from behind against a Lions secondary that is beatable, and the Bears do obviously have a matchup edge with their wide receivers against, like you said, I feel like Carlton Davis, matters a bit. Terrion Arnold, he hasn't been great, mostly in the form of penalties, but it should be a decent matchup for them. And I mean, Caleb just went for 340 on a good Vikings defense, 237, I think, the week before. So he's gone over this number both games with Thomas Brown calling the plays. And like I said, this game is when they're actually expected to be playing from behind. So it seems like a low number in an indoor game here with a relatively high total. I might play that. If I play anything in this game, it's probably going to be that.
Yeah, I like that look. I think the other look for me, and again, this is all stuff that we'll have to kind of decipher between now and when this game kicks off, but if we start to hear anything coming out that maybe Montgomery gets limited at all, then like all the Gibbs props. Like, I mean, the Bears, the Bears over the last 6 weeks, like you can just run all over this team. They have given up big games on the ground just left and right. And if they're not splitting carries, which hell, even if they are splitting carries, it might still be just bet the props on all the running backs. But if they're not splitting carries, then Gibbs is going to go for 100 yards in this game, like for sure. And so I would be all over that if this is something that we get news that maybe Montgomery is either one, not going to play because they're a short week type deal, or if it's just like, yeah, he'll be out there, but it'll be more of a pitch count type situation. I'll be looking at tons of Gibbs props, certainly like your look as well. As far as the total goes, just as we're kind of like talking through things here, not that it's going to be a play for either one of us, but as it sits at 48 and a half out there, if we feel like, and I mean, again, if we're not like completely in love with the Bears offense, even though we do think it's better since they shit canned their offensive coordinator, and if we think the Lions might be run heavy because that's path of least resistance against this Bears team and all of that, is getting to 49 like a little high?
Yeah, I think the Lions, it's like you said, they are probably just going to run the ball a lot, right? So at the same time, they do tend to get chunks when they do.
Yeah, that's true.
So there's that.
Yeah.
And there's the fact that these Bears receivers do have a nice matchup edge. So I don't know, it's probably a good number, but yeah, I could definitely see a wide range of things happening in this game, especially after that Lions kind of more of a defensive struggle against the Colts. Like, everyone's in love with this offense after they score 50, but then they start to play real NFL teams. They look a little bit more mortal,
Yeah. I'm wondering if this is like an alts game almost, right? Like where it's just, if you like the Bears, play them at 7.5 instead of 10.5 or something. And then if you like the Lions, play it at 13.5 or so. Because it seems like it doesn't seem like it's going to play in the middle, right? It's kind of like either the Lions go out and just prove they are a much, much better team than the Bears, and they just beat the hell out of them like they have a lot of the other kind of bottom feeder teams, or the Bears, as you said, as we've seen over the last few weeks, the offense does have a little bit more life, and they can kind of keep this within a touchdown. It's almost like an alts type game for me, I think, if I was going to play spread or total type deal. And then, like I said, I will be all over the Gibbs stuff as soon as we can figure out what's going on with Montgomery out there. New York Giants and the Dallas Cowboys. This is 3.5 in favor of the Cowboys. 37.5 is our total. So, Mo, when this line hit, I instantly played the Cowboys because Tommy DeVito, in my opinion, is the worst quarterback in the NFL. If you go back to last season and we start to look at all the quarterbacks that have played at least 200 plays in the NFL, there are 41 qualifiers. And Tommy DeVito's 39th out of 41 in EPA CPOE composite, ahead of only Zach Wilson and Bailey Zappi, if that tells you anything. Like, I was like, okay, I will bet against Tommy DeVito until the cows come home. And then they throw me a curveball, and they're like, oh, he might not play. And so, it might be Drew Lock, which makes this bet, like, completely different, because I think Drew Lock is probably exponentially better than Tommy DeVito. So my whole handicap of this game, which is as bad as the Cowboys are, I will just play against Tommy DeVito because he's terrible, is out the window unless he actually does start in this game. So what is your feel for that situation? How do you look at this one? What do you see here?
Yeah, I like the Giants.
Yeah.
Partially for that reason.
Yeah.
My feeling is he's not going to go. And we talked about DeVito last week, and we were dead on that one. Yeah, the Bucks should have probably been like minus 14.5.
Yeah.
But this is much different if Drew Lock can play something like he played in Seattle.
Right.
I mean,
he has a pulse at least, right?
Kind of the question here, though. Yeah. Like, reports were that he was like pretty terrible in practice and in the preseason. So maybe he's not a good fit for this Giants offense. Maybe Brian Daboll doesn't like him for whatever reason. But at the same time, I feel like they just have to get behind him if he's the last healthy quarterback, And if they have to get behind him and build the offense around him a little bit this week, I feel like they could have some success against a Dallas defense that's really hurting, especially in the secondary. I don't think Trayvon Diggs has practiced this week. So you have a matchup nightmare there with nobody who can guard Malik Neighbors and a quarterback who, unlike last week, we talked about this, might actually be able to get Malik Neighbors the ball. So I think I'm going to unfortunately play the Giants at 3.5. I'm not positive the Cowboys are even better than the Giants, to be honest with you, as long as they don't have Tommy DeVito at quarterback. So if this is going to be Drew Lock, I do And you have just matchup edges. I kind of think up front on both sides of the ball, this Dallas offensive line is a train wreck with injuries at this point. Everyone's either hurt
Zach
or
Martin,
out.
Zach Martin, 2 straight DNPs for them. That's not great, obviously. Jake Ferguson, 2 straight DNPs. He's still in the concussion protocol. Short week, probably not going to make it back. So like, there are pieces missing on the Dallas side. Trayvon Diggs actually did get back in a limited practice, as did Tyler Smith. So they might get Smith back on the offensive line. They might get Diggs back at corner, but Eric Kendricks now is 2 straight DNPs for the Cowboys as well. So he might not play at the linebacker position. So there's all kinds of stuff going on with this one. This is going to be a cash out for me if Drew Lock ends up playing, because then the handicap, like I said, is just completely out the window. One bet that I did make as well in conjunction with all of this, it really isn't dependent necessarily on who plays quarterback for the Giants. It's just CeeDee Lamb over 6.5 receptions at plus 110. We're actually getting plus money on that. The Giants are dead last DVOA versus wide receiver ones, and Cooper Rush targeted him 12 times last week against the Washington Commanders, who are 3rd worst against wide receiver ones. And so we're actually getting a team that's worse than them, and he targeted them 12 times. So if we're getting anywhere in the neighborhood of that at all again, which why wouldn't you? He's the best player on the field. So why wouldn't you just go ahead? And if you looked and watched that game, they were pretty high percentage throws as well to CeeDee Lamb. Like, it wasn't like he was bombing it down the field to him. There was a lot of stuff that was fairly close to the line of scrimmage. And so at plus money to me, because I had this like kind of right at 8 receptions as it was anyway. So I liked this a lot. So I played the plus 110 on over 6.5 receptions for CeeDee Lamb in this one. Do you buy into any of the like Malik Neighbors squeaky wheel stuff? Because I mean, obviously he goes on the rant about not getting the ball and all this stuff and all that. I mean, if we do get Drew Lock under center, I mean, like we said, we both feel like he's a much more competent quarterback than Tommy DeVito. It seems like if you're Brian Daboll and you're trying to save your job and your 1st round draft pick is coming out saying that you're like really blowing it, that wouldn't you like scheme up some stuff for him? It seems like.
Yeah, I do buy into it. Especially like you said, with a quarterback who is maybe more capable of taking advantage of some of his strengths, you know, and the CeeDee Lamb stuff is a concern for me, obviously. On the Giants side, they don't really have anybody who can match up with him. We saw that last time these two teams played, but I think losing Ferguson hurts here.
Yep.
Most likely, just more defensive attention they can devote to him. The other big matchup, I think, for the Cowboys, obviously, is Micah Parsons facing off against a backup left tackle or, whatever they have left at right tackle, which I don't think is much. So that could be very ugly with a backup quarterback back there. So, yeah, we could see a lot of big plays on both sides in this game, to be honest. So maybe get your live betting ready, because there's going to be some swings here. But overall, I just don't know if I can get the Cowboys out to 3.5 here in a spot where Cooper Rush is probably going to be under some pressure. We saw him just absolute check down wizard against the Eagles when he couldn't set his feet in the pocket. I don't know if he threw the ball past the sticks that entire game. So I think we could see something similar here where you do have a Giants line that does get pressure. I think they're top 5 in adjusted sack rate, top 5 in blitz rate. So that's the one thing they can do, and I don't think Cooper Rush can operate under pressure. We saw that. Basically, they did nothing on offense against Eagles or Texans, and then they play a Commanders team that is atrocious on defense talent-wise. They do scheme some stuff up, but once that sort of thing went away, where the other team was just blowing up Dallas's offensive line, Cooper Rush was able to move the ball and score some points, but this might go back to how it was before.
Miami Dolphins on the road at the Green Bay Packers. This is your night game on Thanksgiving. It is an expensive 3.5 out there in favor of the home team, Green Bay Packers. 47.5 to 48 is your total. Mo, I am on the wrong side of the line move here in this one. What say you in this game?
I don't really have a good feel for this one, just partially because, I don't know, the sample is obviously so small, and kind of a sample of one when I'm looking back at this Chiefs Dolphins playoff game last year, but that's the last time we saw Miami play in freezing cold conditions, and
Yeah.
obviously they couldn't do anything. So I'm a little bit tempted to take the Packers alts in case Miami is just non-functional. But it sounds like you're on the other side, because that is the side that obviously got moved. It moved out to Packers -3.5, and now it looks like it's going back the other way.
I actually was on the under 47.5, and it's moved out to 48 now. And look, this actually didn't even have a ton to do with the weather in this handicap. And so, like, I'm actually confused now that the weather is part of all of this as well as to why this thing is moving out. But it's just kind of like, I look at it from the standpoint of, if you're going to go after this Dolphins team, I mean, they have no run defense really to speak of. And if you're the Packers, you've been running the ball pretty successfully with Jacobs. And then and conversely, if you're the Dolphins, if like you said, this deal with Tua is real, then your only method of moving the ball is to keep the ball on the ground. And I mean, you're going to hear that. Everyone's going to hear this a million times, going back to college, 0-7, sub 40 degree, 0-4 in the NFL, sub 40 degree, all the different stuff like that. This is going to be mid 20s kickoff. It's going to feel like 20, maybe even lower than that. By the time this thing gets well into the game, it is certainly going to be in the high teens as far as the real feel goes. And Mo, like, I am like captain anti-trend, right? Like, I hate trends. I absolutely despise them. However, I do buy into weather trends basically because they're not team specific. They're not coach specific. They're not quarterback specific. They're like none of that. It's like, hey, listen, if the wind blows X, we have a huge enough sample size to know that this happens. If the temperature is X, we have a big enough sample size to know X, right? And when we get into this kind of like 20 degree real feel zone, we typically see like 5 to 8% less offense, right? I mean, like over the course of 60 minutes, I mean, that's fairly significant, And so for me, I was on the under, but again, this is going the opposite direction. It's going to 48. So I mean, I'm on the wrong side of this one.
Yeah, that's going to be me in the next game we talk about. So I've been there, but yeah, these two teams, I mean, on paper, obviously a couple of explosive passing offenses, but like you said, the Packers keep running the ball. Jordan Love has had like 25 attempts the last couple of games. And you have a Miami team that refuses to really throw to its wide receivers and just wants to throw to Devon Achane and Jonnu Smith. So I would lean to your side for sure. As far as the props in this game goes, I do like Devon Achane touchdown again. I don't understand why this isn't out to like some of the numbers that we've been seeing with like the Kyron Williamses of the world and the Saquon Barkleys, where they're -170, -200. Devon Achane has scored 6 of this team's 16 touchdowns since Tua came back. He has scored in 4 out of 5 games since Tua came back, and in a game where I don't anticipate a lot of throwing downfield in cold conditions, I do not understand why he's close to even money. I think that one's pretty good.
Yeah, if you are of the mindset, guys out there, that this is going to be more of an offensive game than I believe it's going to be, Romeo Doubs is not going to make it back for this game. He's in the concussion protocol, short week. There's just no chance he's going to get back for this one. So if you think that means more targets for any of the receivers on the Packers side of things, that could be a way to look. Obviously, this does put Wicks into more of a every down type situation for the Packers. They do play a lot of 3 wide receivers. So, I mean, like, that's just something to keep in mind. If you do think this is going to be a little bit more of an offensive type game than I do, Dobbs probably not going to be back out there for the Packers, given it's a short week and him being in the concussion protocol. So something to keep an eye on there as well. All right, off to Black Friday. It is the Raiders on the road at the Chiefs. This is 12.5 to 13 out there in favor of the Chiefs. A 42.5 total here in this one. Mo, you said you're on the wrong side of this one. What did you put in the account?
So I don't write it anymore. I used to write it. Now I edit the look ahead article at the lines. I took the Raiders plus 11.5 last week. Starting to move in my direction. I don't have like the worst of it by far at this point. It was 13. I think 12 is the most common number I saw earlier, so not terrible for me, but I don't think it's like the worst play for me here. This is mostly injury related. I think it's mainly based on the fact that Gardner Minshew is out. I don't think anybody sees a ton of difference between these quarterbacks, but I think there is a difference. I've seen Gardner Minshew win multiple NFL games. Yes, he has his stink bombs as well. What backup quarterback doesn't? But I think he's more talented than Aiden O'Connell, and that's who we're probably going to see under center here. Every report
I guess
I've
they
seen
came
is
out
that-
and said, I guess they came out this morning and said, so long as he can go, it's going to be Aiden O'Connell. So
yeah, and it's not like one of those soft tissue injuries where they got to test it out. Basically, if he can grip a football, he's playing.
Yeah,
he broke his thumb, so he's going to go. I think. Am I excited? No. Aiden O'Connell is atrocious. We saw this man beat the Chiefs last year on Christmas, I believe, without completing a pass in the second half, if memory serves. So that was interesting, to say the least. But obviously, I don't think that's going to be the case here. But you are seeing a Chiefs defense that I think is having some issues. I called this basically when Jalen Watson got hurt, and it has been as bad as I feared, unfortunately. Not that Jalen Watson is any kind of an amazing player. I think he's just basically a league average corner, but man, that is a massive step up from the guys that are coming in at this point. I don't know how to pronounce this guy's name. Nazee. I don't know what his name is. As soon as he stepped onto the field, I knew there was going to be issues because I had never seen that name before, and I am a massive Chiefs fan. I watch basically every snap of every Chiefs season, and it's been really bad. Teams are just targeting him over and over. Bryce Young was cooking him last week. And then this other guy, Roland Wallace, was playing. I don't even know if he's still in there. The Chiefs are digging deep at corner right now, and it's not good. And I just feel like the Raiders can probably people are going to be open. Like Jacoby Myers, Brock Bowers. The Chiefs have had trouble covering tight ends all year. Nick Bolton, as good as he is against the run at times and at blitzing, he is not a good coverage linebacker. And the Chiefs safeties, they can be decent. Justin Reed is beatable, I think, especially though in coverage. So people are going to be open. If the Chiefs aren't getting a ton of pressure, which they haven't been lately, then I think Aiden O'Connell can complete a few passes. Now this Chiefs offense is playing better, though. I will say that they are looking much crispier now, and they might be rounding into form. That concerns me. Also, the fact that almost to the year anniversary of that disgusting performance against the Raiders, and I think, I didn't really expect the Chiefs to pull out much in that last game. I took the Raiders. They covered. If the Chiefs have a chance to run it up, I think they might here. So that's a concern for me as well.
Yeah, is there a correlation in your mind between wanting the Raiders and also taking an under as well? Because I think if this is high scoring, it's probably not going well for the Raiders, right?
Yeah, like high scoring in this game probably means the Chiefs are over 30 points.
Yeah.
Probably going to have a tough time covering at that point. I would say there's probably some correlation there. I mean, obviously there's a chance with, a backdoor cover, stuff like that. We did see the Chiefs defense really struggle down the stretch, containing a pretty poor Panthers passing game. So I'm worried, but
it's like we said last week, Mo, and I think we were kind of dead on with all of that, which, by the way, if you guys watched the show last week, we just won everything. It was a great week. It was my best week in 3 years, actually. So it was a good week. So we're hoping to keep that rolling here. You said this, and it's just the truth. It's like Andy Reid just doesn't have that Dan Campbell in him, where he didn't care about winning at margin, and he doesn't care about whatever. It's like you win the game and you kind of move on, and it is what it is. And again, this thing's touching 13 now. We know that favorites get bet. I don't know if this doesn't touch 13.5 before it's all said and done, before we see real huge, pro money come back in on the other side or something, because all the casuals are going to definitely back the Chiefs in this thing. And so I just don't have a ton of confidence in backing the Chiefs at massive numbers, because it's just we have enough sample size here to see that it's just not. It's just the anti-Lions, right? They don't keep the foot on the gas. They will kind of just slow it down, and they will kind of just take the win and move on. And so, yeah, man, out at 13. I mean, you can see 13 at DraftKings, you 13 at MGM, 13 at Caesars. I mean, that's a big number. You got to win about 14 points in the NFL.
There's no quarterback better at not scoring, but winning the game on the last drive than Patrick Mahomes. Like, I can't count the number of times the Chiefs have kneeled it out on the opposing 20. I mean, happens all the time. So, yeah, if I don't expect the Chiefs to run it up, but I think it wouldn't stun me if they did. But at the same time, only because of all of the offseason trash talk and whatever else. Like
there is that.
But
right?
I just think any deep shots and such, that's going to happen while the game's somewhat in question. So they do seem committed to taking these shots at this point, which I like. They do seem like they want to get Xavier Worthy at least 2 or 3 deep targets a game, which I like. They haven't been successful targets for the most part, but I would look to that as well. If you are a fan of alt props, this Raiders secondary is probably beatable. At some point, some of these 40-yard completions are going to get caught, and if they are caught, there's definitely a chance he's going to keep running.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Xavier Worthy interests me here, but overall, I'm holding the bag on 11.5, I think, is what I got, but I'm okay with it.
So real quick, they do these props at, all the major sports books out there. Thanksgiving Day, leading passer, leading rusher, leading receiver over the course of Thanksgiving Day. If we're looking around, I mean, is there anything that jumps out to you? I mean, I know that we talked about Gibbs in case Montgomery doesn't play, but then there's also the Packers situation where they might just run down the Dolphins' throat. Is if you were playing leading passer, leading rusher, and leading receiver, where would you go?
I like a punt on Worthy, to be honest. I do. Yeah. If you can get a big number, I'm sure that Amon-Ra is going to be a massive favorite in this market, but I don't mind a punt on Worthy. And then J-Mo maybe makes sense as well there. I could see him having a big game, especially if I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what they do with Jalen Johnson in that game. So I don't know how the Bears are going to play that, but rushing wise, nothing. A couple of unsettled situations in that Chiefs Raiders game. No idea who's even going to be getting the lion's share of the carries for either team. So I think you have to look elsewhere there. Maybe Achane, to be honest. Man, he has been just such a massive part, but also in the passing game, really. So that's why he interests me quite a bit in the touchdown markets. But yeah, Gibbs has to be. Gibbs. My feeling on that situation is that Montgomery wants to play, but they're going to limit him. It's basically the second option that you said. That I don't think they're going to give him a full workload. Why would they? I mean,
I was going to say, why would you? You have Super Bowl aspirations. I get it, the whole revenge angle thing, but what's cooler, running for 100 yards against your former team or winning a Super Bowl? You know what I'm saying? Win a Super Bowl.
They might just you get to the 5, hand it to him, get him in the end. Good job, man. We got you there. All right. Now go put some ice on it.
Yeah, exactly. Go sit down, dude. We got you the touchdown. Right?
Yeah. So, I don't know. Passing-wise, man, I mean, it's going to sound crazy, but I don't think Caleb is the worst here.
Yeah.
I mean, they're playing from behind at a big number. I don't think that's a bad look.
I was going Caleb as well, because I think there is a game state where they're just trailing from jump, and then if that's the case, he's just throwing all over the place. And I glad you said Jameson Williams, because that was my call for leading receiver on the day. He either has terrible games or massive games. There's nothing in between, right? It's he has a 30-yard game or has a 120-yard game, and so at the number you're going to get on Jameson Williams, I think that is the play, certainly, for all that. Guys, everything to do, absolutely free, so go ahead, hit that subscribe button. Do appreciate it. When you go to thelines.com, upper right-hand corner is our Discord. Click on that. That's free as well. Go in there, have a discussion with not only the staff, but also like-minded bettors like you. Get their thoughts on everything that's happening on Thanksgiving and Black Friday as well. For Mo, I am Matt. Good luck on all your Thanksgiving Black Friday bets.